I am unbelievably confused.
But don't worry, we're back in Takami's trash heap.
そろそろ寝るか。
Yes? Yes, you should. Stifling a yawn, I looked at the clock on my PC. It was 5 a.m. 5 a.m.? I'd spent another entire day grinding on ESO, but no monsters had ended up dropping the rare items I was looking for. I'd been binging it for about 8 hours straight, but still no luck. That happened to me all the time, though. I glanced over to the side of my computer desk. The D sword I'd bought yesterday was still leaning against it, and I'd set it there right within reach of me so I could grab it any moment. Speaking of the sword, the damn thing hadn't glowed at all. I've been hoping that it'd transform into some new badass form like the one Senna had, but I've been similarly out of luck there too. On my monitor, Grimm's avatar just leveled up. My Nightheart was already max level, so he wouldn't go any higher. Yeah, it's probably about time to make a new character. My third after Lissalot. I thought to myself as I rubbed my sleepy eyes. EXP sure was something. It was a well-known concept in RPGs, but I figured EXP existed in real life too. Yeah, but it's harder to obtain, and you have to be consistent, or else you'll start leveling down if you're not consistent. Back when I'd first started playing ESO, I'd been a total nobody who didn't know right from left, but now I was known far and wide as Lightning Fast Nightheart, the most powerful player in Baselard. Let's say the person controlling me had lost a chunk of my EXP for some reason or another. If that had happened, then it would make complete sense why I'd forgotten things. That could also be where the discrepancies in my memory had come from. Things like Shogun and the Demon Girl. Before a chunk of my EXP got wiped, maybe it was perfectly normal for me, the person controlling me, to post in chat rooms under the handle Shogun. And for me to live like a complete normie with the Demon Girl. No, that just wasn't possible. But if it was possible, then maybe I used to possess an incredible power that would allow me to oppose the Demon Girl. Was I the only person who thought like this? I didn't really feel like it was a particularly weird way of thinking. Human beings could only really make judgment based on their own sense of values that they'd come up with themselves. So maybe it just wasn't just me living my day-to-day life making the wrong decisions, but everyone in the entire world. Back when I was little, I'd gone to the dentist. And I remembered them telling me, "You did such a good job putting up with that much pain. You were a very good patient." At the time, I thought I was amazing for making it through to the end, and I felt really proud of myself. Thinking back on it now, though, that comment was probably based on the degree of pain felt compared to the progression of the cavity. But even if the level of pain was the same, there would be people that could bear the pain, and there would be people who couldn't. In other words, I came to realize that how someone recognized and felt such sensations completely depended on the person. Childbirth, for example. I'd often seen on the internet that women could endure the pain of it, but it would be completely impossible for men. Oh yeah, I've seen some men try to put on that, it's sort of like this weird harness that you strap around you, and it's supposed to simulate the pain of giving birth so a male can kind of start to understand what women go through with childbirth. Yeah, I've never gone through it myself, but I have to admit, it is kind of funny watching the dudes squirm. That way they at least get a better understanding of what women go through. Another example would be marathon runners. Maybe they excelled not because of their physical strength, but because of their ability to endure pain. There were also sadists and masochists. If there were people that found pleasure in being hurt, there would also be people that derived pleasure from hurting others. In other words, I believe that the way people felt things, along with their ability to handle pain and suffering, all varied from person to person. Perhaps the level of pain in the toothaches and headaches I got from time to time actually far surpassed the limits of pain an ordinary person could take. And if that were true, then perhaps if I'd passed the same pain onto someone else, the sheer agony would cause them to go into shock and die. The conclusion I ended up coming to as a result of this line of thinking was more or less a self-righteous delusion. That perhaps I was special.
特殊な人間か。っていうか、何を大げさな。
Although I denied it, I was sure that every person had delusions like this. Every man longs to be the strongest in the world. Every human being wants to think that they're special, that they're the chosen one. We all want to think that a dramatic story full of twists and turns, like the ones you'd find in TV and movies, is waiting for us in the future. The so-called desire to be a hero, or to be blunt, textbook chunibuyoi shit. Of course, even I had those kinds of desires. It could very well be my destiny to triumph over the demon girl. But if that really was my destiny, and I had to make it come true, I'd need a number of conditions to be met first. At the very least, I absolutely needed the ability to use cheats. Be it cheat codes for special attacks, or maybe even a god mode of some kind. I didn't want to deal with any pain or fear. Alright, we all know what cheats are. Video game terminology, to modify game data using game-altering tools. In recent years, many video games have been equipped with cheats intentionally by the developers. Secret commands are one type of cheat code. Ah, the old delightful cheat codes of frickin' Ratchet and Clank. Big head mode, dual lightsaber mode, all that shit. Snowman mode. If I couldn't cheat in some way, or in other words, if I was supposed to achieve that with my own power, there was no way I'd be able to do it. Which was why, if the person controlling me had lost all my EXP, that would be a huge blow to me. A super effective one. I just barely got to school on time. It probably wasn't the best idea to stay up playing Bidya until early in the morning on a school night. I'd had to run in order to make it on time. When I got to the classroom door, I stopped and took deep breaths to try and catch my breath. I couldn't act in a way that'd make me stand out to my classmates. For me, even something like being late would be fatal. If the DQN's eyes all zeroed in on me, my life would be over. I slowly made my way into the classroom, keeping my head down. I couldn't let myself make eye contact with anyone. Of course, I didn't give a mindless greeting like, good morning, either. Trying to make my presence as undetectable as possible, I made myself invisible and turned toward my seat. That was how I always did things. And today was no different. I made it to my seat without any issue and sat down. Soon after, I laid my head and arms face down on the desk, and from there, I was safe until homeroom started. But I only got to relax for a split second before someone's hand clapped against my back.
Yo, Taku. 今週は3回も学校来てんじゃねえか。真面目だな。
Hey, Misumi. Misumi-kun again. Even though I was really getting on my nerves, I'd feel bad if I ignored him, so I started to reluctantly raise my head. Only to hesitate. Was this Misumi-kun? The real one? 2 days ago, I'd done what the demon girl told me to do and called him. When I talked to him, he'd been very clearly acting strange. I mean, he told me that Rimi was our classmate as if it was the most obvious thing in the world, which I hadn't expected at all. Maybe the demon girl had brainwashed him. Maybe it was something else. Maybe the person controlling him had been switched out.
おい、どうした？早くも爆睡モードか？
An electronic sound suddenly rang throughout the classroom. I felt a faint vibration near my chest. It was my cell phone! Oh shit, now of all times? What kind of asshole would call at a time like this? And not only was my phone going off, but even though I was sure I'd set it to vibrate, the ringtone was going off too. Oh, I guess I must have messed up the settings.
お、鳴ってるぞ、タク。
Yes, I know, goddammit! Should I just answer it? But if I did that, Miss Umi-kun would know I was being asleep. Besides, I didn't like talking on the phone. But also, If I didn't pick it up, it would annoy the rest of the class. And considering how it was ringing loudly throughout the classroom, it had to be doing that already. I wasn't supposed to stand out. This was really, really bad.
おーい、出ないのか。マジで寝てる？
Damn it! While I've been freaking out over what to do, I'd already lost my chance. I couldn't move now. The sound and vibration stopped. The call must have gone to voicemail. I let out a sigh of relief soft enough that Misumi-kun wouldn't be able to hear it. It was definitely the right call for me to figure out how to use the voicemail function.
なあ、タク、相手は誰だ？まさか女か？この前一緒に帰ったあのメガネの子だろ。そうなんだろ？
About her? Damn it, you're so annoying. I just wanted him to stop bothering me. That phone call had already made me stand out way too much. Had Misumi-kun always been this persistent? Though he'd always been way too friendly with me, I thought he at least had the capacity to take a hint.
やめなよ。
It's her! It's her! I heard a voice from right next to Misumi-kun.
そっとしておいてあげたら、大臣。なんだか疲れてるみたいだし。
She was here in my classroom. Like it was the most normal thing in the world.
どうせゲームのやりすぎだろ。お前、タクに甘すぎるぜ。
だって大臣は女の敵だし、そういう人には優しくしません。
I mean, to be fair, Demon Girl, you are correct that he is the enemy of all women. They were having a friendly conversation like it was the most normal thing in the world. She was blending in like it was the most normal thing in the world. I was too scared to look up. I didn't want to acknowledge that she was there.
ま、別にお前に優しくしてもらわなくても、俺には優しくしてくれる女はたくさんいるんだよ。
だからそういう発言が良くないんだってば。彼女さんが聞いたら泣くよ。今の大臣の彼女が誰だかわかんないけど。ほら、チャイム鳴った。先生来るよ。
Oh. Had the demon girl really been my classmate all along? No. There was no way. She hadn't been here 2 days ago, or at the very least, the only person that had spoken to me that day was Misumi-kun. I hadn't gone to school yesterday, so I wasn't sure about that one. But when I came today, she was here. How? How'd she manage to worm her way in? Everyone took their seats once the sound of the bell announced the start of the homeroom. Sensing that, I looked up cautiously. I surveyed the room with just my eyes. I wanted the voice from earlier to have just been an illusion. In order to prove that to myself, I need to make sure that the girl was nowhere to be found in the classroom. I didn't see her. I didn't see anything that even remotely resembled her. Did that mean she really was a hallucination? No, she's probably behind you. My seat was in the 5th row from the front. There were 9 rows in total. She wasn't in any of the rows in front of me. Which meant she was behind me? But I couldn't turn around. I couldn't allow myself to stand out. Damn it, this was so frustrating! Was she really here in my classroom or not? I didn't feel chills on the back of my neck. No one was looking at me. I didn't feel a gaze. Was she here? Or not here? Which was it? Still staring at the surface of the desk, I tried to detect her by just her presence alone. And right as I tried, I heard my homeroom teacher enter the classroom. I didn't remember the teacher's name. I had a feeling that it was Tsukaji or Tsukada, or at least something like that. He was a PE teacher that had graduated from an athletic college, and he was a total musclehead. However, he didn't really act like it. Nor did he employ corporal punishment like one might expect him to. If anything, he was the type of teacher that knew how to take a joke. For some reason, the class all started murmuring about something, but right now I was occupied with trying to detect the demon girl. Did I really expect to be able to sense her by presence alone? This wasn't some manga! Was I an idiot? Yes.
今日から転校生が入ることになった。
New transfer student? My homeroom teacher mumbled that to the class. Oh, so that was why the room was so noisy.
ほら、折原、みんなに挨拶しろ。
Orihara? I didn't hear the supposed transfer student say anything. Was there really one here? I glanced toward the door. Oh, hi. Holy shit, I've made 17 save. Hold on. Holy fuck. 17 well, actually, wait. 16, 17, 15 or 16 delusions. Good lord. And sure enough, there was someone there. She was extremely petite, possibly even more so than Anami. She looked fairly timid, emulating that moe gets bullied all the time archetype. If I had to choose, she was probably around mid-tier when it came to 3D girls. For some reason, she was looking down at the floor, her eyes filled with tears. The scattered whispers grew to murmurs as the transfer student maintained her silence. So, in order to comfort her, the teacher placed his hand on her shoulder.
どうやら折原は緊張しているようだな。よし、挨拶はいい。みんな、この子は折原梢だ。仲良くしてやってくれ。
Orihara Kozue. Isn't that the girl that... Wait. This is from a weird scene from earlier. Ain't this the girl that burned all of her belongings? No, wait. Burned some of her stuff. Textbooks. And she and her family were moving. I think? God, that was so long ago. I'm having a hard time remembering.
折原、席は一番後ろだ。席についていいぞ。
The transfer student made her way to the back without saying a word, keeping her head low to the ground. Her seat was 4 rows behind mine. Should I pretend to watch her so I could catch a glimpse of the people behind me? Problem was that I'd draw a lot of unwanted attention to myself. I didn't want any DQNs trying to pick a fight. Oh, don't go staring at her just because she's cute, or some BS like that. I was at a loss for what to do. Should I look now, or should I wait until class is over? My head still firmly pressed against my desk, I squeezed my fists tightly. Don't forget it, I was a coward. Just the thought that if I turned around, my eyes would meet with that girl's sent shivers down my spine.
この人似てる。
Huh? You're like me? The transfer student walked right by my seat. Taken aback, I glanced at her face. I then realized that, without even thinking, I'd looked up. Okay. Whoa. The transfer student stopped at my desk, if only for a split second. But she didn't look at me. In that moment, however, I saw that she was carrying what looked like an enormous slab of raw iron. What the hell? But when I blinked, the slab of iron was gone. What was that just now? Was my mind playing tricks on me?
同じクラスでよかった。
I'm so happy we're in the same... Is she speaking to me in my head? That was all she said. The transfer student then resumed walking, leaving my desk behind. Had she been talking to me? Why had she talked to me out of nowhere like that? Wait, is she also antisocial? I was like her? She was happy we were in the same class? Did we know each other? No, definitely not. I'd never seen her before. Unless she meant to tell me that she was some childhood friend who I'd completely forgotten about until now. Yeah, no, that only happened in Eroge. Was I actually becoming popular after all? Or maybe... Could the transfer student be one of the demon girl's underlings? If so, then the demon's net was closing around me even tighter. I was running out of places to hide. Holy shit, dude. All my new fears and doubts zoomed through my mind at 1,000,000 kilometers an hour, and before I knew it, homeroom had ended. First period would begin in about 5 minutes. Misumi-kun rushed over to the transfer student's desk. Knowing him, he was going to try to lay the moves on her. The other students were clearly interested in her too, and the room had grown louder than usual. At a glance, it may have seemed like a casual, peaceful, ordinary thing. But for me, it was like being caught deep within enemy territory. My heartbeat was going crazy. Anxiety filled my head to bursting, and so much as lifting a finger felt like more than a one-man job. My brain was in the midst of a civil war, one side urging me to turn around, the other side warning me not to.
Taku?
That's her! My breath caught in my throat. My mind went completely blank. A voice had come from directly behind me. She really was here. That girl really was here after all.
具合悪そうだけど
Yeah, because you killed somebody.
平気
No? I needed to run. I needed to run away as fast as I could. Despite that, my legs were shaking so violently that I didn't even think I could even stand. And while I was frozen solid, the demon girl, Sakihata Rimi, circled around to the front of my seat.
汗びっしょり風邪でもひいたんじゃない
Just like 2 days ago, she spoke as if she were concerned about me. Just like 2 days ago, she held out her floral-scented handkerchief. I didn't accept the handkerchief, hurriedly wiping the sweat from my forehead on my own.
なんて
何
I couldn't look her in the eye, but from how she spoke, I could tell she had a smile on her face.
ねえねえさっき何話してたの
None of your business! Rimi crouched down, resting her chin on her hands. Now at eye level with me, she peered at my face. I quickly looked away. It felt like the anxiety would tear my heart right open at any moment. Damn it, why wouldn't she just let me go? Someone, please help me.
すっごく気になる
I do not trust you. What was she talking about? Who was she asking me about?
転校生
And she read my mind.
あの子がタクの机の横を通るときに小声でさボソボソーっともしかしてあの子と知り合い
Rimi was still smiling. Was it just me, or was her tone more of a probing one than an actual curious one?
タクってリアルの女の子に興味ないんじゃなかったっけもしかして本当は興味あるの
Where was she going with this? Was her plan to probe me for personal information and exploit it for her own gain? At the end of the day, I really didn't give a damn about 3D girls. Just like I always said in that sour voice of mine.
じゃあさ私にも実は興味あったりする
No. You are casually reading my fucking mind. No. An icy chill ran down my back. Despite having just wiped the sweat off my forehead, I could feel moisture all over it. Was that a threat? Or could it be that she was inviting me to become her ally? Or maybe she intended to seduce me, acting all moe so she could lure me into a trap! All sorts of alarm bells were going off in my head. I shouldn't be talking to the demon girl anymore! If I did, I'd be signing my own death warrant!
Taku?
I'd hit my breaking point. In a panic, I stood up and dashed for the exit, knocking into several desks on my way out. I'm slowly becoming well, I stand corrected. I'm only exhibiting the paranoid traits of Takumi. Also, is my voice acting cringe whenever I start... Anyways, I was saying, is my voice acting cringe? I ran straight up the stairs without looking at anyone and came out on the empty roof. It didn't seem like she'd chased me. Even so, I couldn't allow myself to relax just yet, so I hugged my knees and decided to hide for a little while in the shadows. My knees were trembling. I couldn't believe that I'd managed to run in this condition. I guess it just showed how desperate I was. I was tired of this reality. The D-sword I'd gone out of my way to buy hadn't been useful in the slightest. I obviously couldn't bring it to school with how much it'd stand out either. I'd been careless. 2 days ago, when Misumi-kun had told me that Rimi was our classmate, I'd figured that he was either spewing some bullshit or just outright deluding himself. But she really was my classmate. Or at the very least, she had become one. There was no point in trying to figure out how she'd managed to worm her way in. She was a demon. She could do things that humans were incapable of with ease. Maybe she'd brainwashed my whole class. Or maybe she'd brainwashed all the teachers instead. I couldn't go to the hospital anymore. And now I couldn't go to school either. Meanwhile, Yua was at Cafe and Shogun always appeared online. The demon girl and her underlings were no doubt getting closer and closer to me, continually hitting me with psychological attack after psychological attack as they did it. Maybe I shouldn't leave my base at all anymore. There were enemies in danger at every turn in reality. They disturbed me and threatened my peace, even though all I wanted was to live a quiet life bothering nobody and being bothered by nobody. I looked up at the blue sky. It floated calmly above me as the wind blew white clouds across its breadth. How nice it would be if I could become one of those clouds. Around 3 hours had passed. I had stayed in the same place the entire time without moving. I didn't sense anyone coming up at the moment. I could finally breathe. The problem, however, was what came after. During break, there would always be students that had come up here to eat lunch. That was why the best way out of this was to escape during fourth period and make a break for my base. It'd mess up my minimum attendance chart, but I didn't possess even a single ounce of courage that would allow me to return to the classroom where the demon girl was. I decided not to worry about the fact that I'd left my bag in the classroom. All I had in there were textbooks, my wallet, my keys. Anything else important would be in my uniform pockets. I hoped. Growing slightly nervous, I searched my pockets. Wallet, keys, cell phone, they were all there. That was when I remembered that someone had called me. I'd been pretty freaked out at the time, but not as much as when Rimi had talked to me.
一体誰だ?
Maybe Yua? That or Nanami. I couldn't think of anyone who'd call besides my family. It would make the most sense if it was Nanami. She never thought about whether she might be bothering me after all. The only other people who'd know this number would be... Oh, wait, that's right. I'd given it to those detectives. If it had been one of them, I really should have picked up. They still hadn't sent this officers to my base like they said they would. So I really needed to talk to them to make sure that that was still happening. The caller's phone number was displayed on the screen. It didn't seem to be Nanami's, and when I looked closer, I saw that I had a new voicemail. I had the vague feeling that I'd seen this number before, just in case I'd checked the call history. And yet another delusion already. There were only 5 calls on the list. Which meant that, since I had bought the cell phone, I'd only received 5 calls, 3 of which were from Nanami. That left 2 others. The one from earlier today, and the one from 5 days ago were shown as numbers instead of names, as they hadn't been registered in my address book. They were both from the same number, 03X733X991. Considering they had gone out of their way to leave a message, it was probably someone who really wanted to tell me something. Guess I'd go ahead and listen to it.
楠木優愛です。
Yua?
ごめんなさい。突然お電話しちゃって。ただ、どうしてもお話ししたいことがあって。
Wait a minute, isn't this the song that was playing anytime I had interacted with Yua? So I'm thinking this might actually legitimately be her theme.
セイラちゃんの新しいフィギュア、私も買いました。西条くんのおかげです。ありがとうございました。とっても可愛いんですけど、ちょっとエッチですね。買うときすごく恥ずかしかったです。あ、そうそう、今週のブラチュー見ました？すごい展開でしたね。私見ながらずっとドキドキしちゃって。
This is supposed to be a delusion.
この多重人格者。
Where the fuck did that go? You schizophrenic?
あなたが殺したの。
Huh?
人殺し。真犯人。罪を償いなさい。
Okay, that's... Ma'am?
その目、誰の目？
Ah, so that's how the delusion went. Alright. Holy shit, okay. Even though it had been my own delusion, I was terrified. It was entirely possible for Yua to have gotten a hold of my cell phone number from somewhere and called me, after all. I didn't want to listen to the voice message anymore if I could help it. But since I'd already simulated the worst possible outcome in my delusions, I should have been able to handle it as long as I only had to listen to nothing else. Shaking off my depression, I set the message to playback. Then, after checking multiple times to make sure the demon girl wasn't there, I put the phone to my ear.
こちらは留守番電話サービスセンターです。新しいメッセージは1件です。
Okay.
1件目、10月17日金曜日午前8時28分の伝言です。
Well, actually, wait a minute. If you was going to this school... No, actually, yeah, it is possible since school hadn't really... Homeroom hadn't started yet, so I guess you could make a call to him. My thoughts exactly, Takumi. The fuck is this? Instead of someone's voice, there was an incredibly familiar melody. It felt like the sound was being recorded from a short distance away from the phone. Maybe the person on the other end was near a pedestrian signal? The song being played was one you'd hear pretty often at crosswalks. It was used in order to let people with visual disabilities know when it was okay to cross. The song was a nursery rhyme called You May Pass, also known as Torianse. A crosswalk. Where's Nanami? While there were a lot of people that knew the melody, there weren't many who knew the lyrics. Oh, and I was one of them, actually. I'd memorized them back in middle school. And then again, it wasn't like I remember them perfectly now. You may pass, you may pass. Where shall this narrow path take us to? It is the path to Tenjin Shrine. Please, will you let us pass? Those with no business will not yet be let through. To celebrate the 7 years of this child's birth, we would come with an offering. Going may prove easy, but turning is... But returning is wee woo, was what I'd heard from the phone. It sounded like an ambulance, which felt kind of like a bad omen. Meh, it likely didn't actually mean anything, but it still made me feel pretty creeped out. The second after the traffic signal melody got cut off, an extremely loud noise that sounded like a buzzer exploded from the speakers. It was so ridiculously loud that I'd automatically shot the phone away from my ear.
なんだ
When I cautiously brought the phone back to my ear, the voicemail had already stopped playing. What was that? Right at the end there, I thought I just barely heard a roaring noise. It sounded like the ground itself was rumbling. That buzzer sound was completely separate from the pedestrian signal melody. Considering how loud it had been, the only thing I could think of was that the phone's receiver had deliberately been put up next to whatever had made that noise.
いたずら
My heart began to pound. Had I done something to make someone hate me enough to do that? Who'd even called me in the first place? I could call them back by dialing the number displayed on my phone, but there was no way I'd be able to call back a prank caller. Well, it couldn't be Nanami's phone number. She programmed this phone, so it makes sense that she'd put her the family's numbers in there. That was genuinely unsettling. That was really well done. In the end, all I could do was just leave it. Besides, I was stuck in the middle of a situation far worse than any prank call. I returned my phone to my pocket and ever so carefully left the school, making sure to pay close attention to my surroundings as I escaped. Well, if there was a traffic accident, we'll find it on the way home, I guess. Nishijo Takami's alma mater, Kitazawa Second Elementary School, was about a 5-minute walk from the private train station. Bon Yasuji had attempted to contact Takami's elementary school teacher over the phone, only to be told that they had unfortunately passed away. Left with no other choice, Bon had decided to set up a meeting to speak with the person who would answer the phone instead. The head teacher, Kamio, not long after. He had arrived at the school together with his partner. As it was a Saturday, the school gate was closed. The two detectives, Bon and Sua, stopped in front of it and turned their attention toward the school building. The white walls of the school's exterior had been painted with a brightly colored, eye-catching mural. Due to his complete lack of knowledge on paintings or any other kind of fine art, Bon had no idea what it signified. But the way the spiral-shaped mural transitioned vertically into an array of 7 different colors reminded him of a rainbow. As Bon stared at the mural, cooling himself with his handheld fan, his partner Sua pushed the intercom button next to the school gate. Suddenly, Bon looked around. He had a feeling that someone was watching him. There was a gaze that seemed to follow him everywhere, leaving him quite discomfited. Kinda. He attempted to strike a casual pose, one that aimed to be dandy and refined.
先輩、何変なポーズしてるんすか？裏門の方に通用口があるんで、そっちに回ってくれって。
Bon retired from his pose with a sigh and headed toward the back of the building. The staff room was easy to find. As soon as they entered through the side door, all they had to do was travel down the rear entrance hallway and turn at a single corridor to arrive at the room. There was, of course, no sign of children in the school. Although it was likely a mere illusion created by the smooth linoleum floor, the two detectives felt far colder inside the building than they had outside. There were 3 teachers in the staff room. Upon seeing the 2 detectives enter the room, one of the 3 stood up and bowed. The man who stood up was named Kamio. His mostly white hair was parted to the side, and he greeted the 2 of them with a gentle smile. Bon and Sua showed their police badges to him almost simultaneously, returned his greeting briefly, then immediately approached the topic at hand. It was Sua's job to ask the questions.
ここの卒業生である西條匠くんについて教えていただきたいんですが。
彼のことは印象に残っています。私は担任ではなかったから詳しくとなると無理ですが、それでも構いませんか。
Talking about our boy Takumi. You are a suspect, my dude. Understandably so, especially with how much you are acting like a suspect. Acting suspectedly. Suspiciously suspected. Sua nodded, taking out his notebook and preparing to write everything down.
西條くんはどんな子だったんですか？
Antisocial as fuck.
難しい子だと聞いていました。特殊だと。
Special in what way?
特殊？
You better be careful with your words, teacher. Kamio.
本来なら他の生徒に混ざって勉強するのはとても困難な病気を患っていたらしく。
Disease?
具体的には？
そこまで私が言ってしまっていいのかどうか。ご家族なり医師なりに聞いていただけますか。
Schools have recently begun adopting this approach, where they would avoid any issues that may prove difficult to them. They refuse to take part in anything that may earn them complaints from parents or any other parties. Such practices made it incredibly difficult for the police to do their jobs.
担任の先生はなんで亡くなったんです？
事故です。遠足の最中、乗っていたバスが陥没した道路に。
あ、自分それ知ってるっす。ニュースでやってたっすよね。
子供たちは怪我をしただけで、幸い命は助かったのですが。
But the bus driver didn't, the teacher.
斉藤先生だけが犠牲になってしまい、なんともやりきれない思いです。
西條くんもその事故に巻き込まれた。
No. According to his memories, his parents didn't let him go because they had a bad feeling about it. In response to Bond's question, Kamio shook his head lightly.
あの子は当日欠席していて、バスには乗っていませんでした。
欠席の理由は？
病が悪化したと聞いたような覚えがありますが。
His illness having worsened. Bond, too, had a faint recollection of the accident. For multiple days following the incident, in the short glimpses Bond caught of the news, he would always see the media swarming the house of the sole boy who had not been involved in it.
あれは悲しい事故だったんですよ。
Your phrasing of the word accident concerns me. For some reason, while Kamio was repeating himself, he placed a strong emphasis on the word accident. Takumi's shit opinions about his sister aside, we now have a transfer student we got a very, very concerning voicemail. And now I'm a little bit worried about Takumi's sister. I'm very, very concerned. And now Ban and Sua are investigating our protagonist. Well, on the positive, he's got a sword. Not sure how effective that's going to be. And we also got confirmation that he does seemingly sleepwalk as Shogun. And then we have this whole thing about biorhythms being affected. I can't help but wonder, is our protagonist biorhythm being fucked with, I wonder? And them phrasing his condition like it's a disease. Well, I'm probably gonna have to sleep on that one, but fascinating. Oh, well, thank you all very much for watching. There's not much really I can say about this, aside from I keep saying I'm getting thoroughly intrigued by this, but I just don't know. There's still some things I'm trying to, but I feel like I'm getting on the cusp of understanding a little bit of what's going on. At least a little bit. Maybe. Fuck, I don't know. Anyway, that's it. If you all like this, be sure to let me know. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.